1140, we're focusing on writing for varied audiences. Throughout this course, we've discussed how we can take our own writing with its original intended audience and appeal to even more people who may be interested in the topic or ones we hope to get interested in the topic. So it says this week you will learn how to adjust your writing to match different audiences. You will explore how tone, structure, and word choice change depending on the purpose and the people reading your work. Whether you're writing a blog, an academic response, or professional email, knowing your audience helps you communicate clearly and respectfully. Think back to our very first unit where we talked about writing in an academic setting versus writing in a professional setting versus writing in a personal setting. All are important. However, they require different types of words, styles of writing, tone, and so much more. So as always, start with the objectives and activities. Please be sure to go through the readings and resources. In addition to what's being asked of you to read in the textbook, there is going to be another article for you and a very helpful video that breaks down the purpose, the audience, and the format of our writing. Please be sure you're keeping up with the MindTap readings and activities. All of the chapters that you need to read, just like they are every other week, they can be found under this tab. So when it says read chapter 9, you can just go right over to chapter 9. And then of course, you're going to see if there are any activities that need to be done for MindTap in addition to the in-class activity. So MindTap, Cengage, they're the same thing. They're powered through the textbook. You should have been doing them all term because they align with those chapters. However, they are a large part of your grade. So if you have not been doing those MindTaps, please make sure you reach out to your instructor and talk to them about getting those in. The week 7 activity is going to educate you a bit more on different types of audiences and how we need to adjust our tone, structure, and language to match and meet the expectations and communication styles of readers. And please be sure you take part in this activity and do the readings prior to the discussion board. And in the discussion board, it says, think about your personal voice as a writer. How do you balance sounding like yourself while also being professional and respectful in academic or workplace settings? Share an example of how you have adjusted your tone for a particular assignment or communication. So basically, you want to think about how you stay true to yourself and what it is you want to say while doing it in various settings. So the way we talk with our friends and family is, of course, going to be different than the way we talk in school or the way we talk at work, just because there's a different level of comfort, there's different expectations amongst different settings. But how can you keep that piece of yourself and that piece of your voice available at all times in all settings? And that is the basis of adjusting our tone, our word choice, our style, all these things that align with the audience. In response to your peers, ask a question that invites them to go deeper into how they shape their voice depending on the context. So be sure that you navigate back to the discussion board by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time and respond to 2 of your peers and pose those questions. Of course, it would be great if you can do them sooner, because if you're going to be asking them a question, you want to make sure that they see it. So while it's not necessarily due to have your peer replies in until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, doing them even sooner will be great, because that's going to give you the opportunity to ask questions that your classmates are more likely to see and respond to. So I always tell students in my own section, if your initial post is going to be submitted on Wednesday by 11:59 p.m., then maybe go in Thursday and Saturday or Thursday and Friday and respond to a peer each day. And then you'll have done your 2 peer replies. And always be sure to make sure that you're checking to see who reached out to you and respond to their replies. The same way you want to hear what people say to your questions, your classmates are also looking for answers from you. For the week 7 assignment, you're going to be focusing on what you already completed last week. So when you did that letter to the editor on an important topic, you submitted it, you'll be getting feedback from your instructor if you haven't already gotten it. But you'll see that in the instructions, it's now your job to take that same letter to the editor and repurpose it. So you're going to keep the same topic, but you're going to address a different audience. So if the letter to the editor was originally in a very formal tone, perhaps you can employ a more casual tone if you're going to be giving it to a speech at a local family function, or if you're going to adapt it into an academic essay that you might be handing in. Or perhaps you're going to be giving a speech to local high schoolers on this important topic that you chose. In some cases, maybe you're going to be giving a speech to local lawmakers in your state or your city or your town. That original tone may be appropriate in some ways, but it is going to need to be adjusted to meet the standards required for these different areas. So the way we are talking to a group of high school students, which is one of the examples, is probably going to be different than the way we're going to be talking to local lawmakers, like perhaps the mayor or first selectman or the governor. All of these people are important, and yet the way that we capture their attention and keep it is going to require different ideas, different words, different skills. After you've successfully rewritten it, you are going to include a paragraph where you break down these 3 questions, again, in paragraph format. What did you change from the original letter? Why did you make those changes? And how did your new audience influence your decisions? So it's one thing to rewrite the piece, but now you have to reflect on it and you have to justify those decisions. I always tell my students in this class that if you've taken the time to rewrite it, then of course a great deal of thought would have gone into that rewrite. So what exactly were you thinking while you were doing it? So maybe writing down some notes while you're doing the rewrite will be beneficial because then you can reflect on them and incorporate them into this final paragraph. By this point, if you're working on the week 7 assignment, you should have already done all of the readings and learned a great deal about tone and audience and structure. But just like every other unit, there are resources available to you outside of just what's available in the course shell. So if you've watched previous videos, you will have seen us navigate before to the Post-Writing Center. But if this is your first time, scrolling to the top of the page in your section, you're going to see the tab that says Student Resources. And when you click on it, you're going to see more options open up, one of which is Student Resource Essentials. There's a lot of great support options in here, but the one that we're going to click on today is under the Writing Center. And there's going to be a blue hyperlinked line that says Post-University Writing Center, and you're going to click on that. It's going to open up another page, which is the official website for the Writing Center here at Post-University through the Center for Academic Success. And up at the top of the page on the right-hand side, there's something that says Resources, which I'm currently running the cursor over. You're going to click on that. And again, if you've been watching these videos over the past few units, this should look familiar to you. But towards the bottom of the page, we're going to keep scrolling. We see first year resources. In week 7, if we click on this plus sign, we see FYE 140 week 7 assignment study guide. Click on that and it's going to open up a new document. This breaks down different types of tones. So we have our formal, our informal, our persuasive, our neutral, our emotional, our academic. What the definition of those tones are, some of the key features of them, examples of who the audience might be for those tones, and then an example of how that tone might be presented. Of course, this is just an example. There's more than one way to do it. There's many ways. Now, last week, if you were doing a letter to the editor, one example could have been the persuasive component because you were trying to do a call to action. You were trying to get people interested. However, sticking to one tone in your entire paper isn't always the answer. In order to persuade people, we usually bring in the rhetorical components, the emotional aspect of it, and in that case, under the umbrella of rhetoric, that's called pathos. So if we're trying to persuade someone, we may bring in the emotional aspect because that has been shown to be proven successful in getting people to agree or to at least recognize the topic. So you are going to adjust your tone for this assignment, but it doesn't mean it's going to be one strict tone. The formal tone and the academic tone are very similar, just as persuasive and emotional can be very similar. So determine first and foremost how you're going to rework your letter to the editor from last week, who the intended audience is going to be, and then you can go from there and decide what tone you're going to use and how you're going to implement that tone or those tones. But remember, in the reflection, they ask you to explain how you did that, what exactly you did to make it a persuasive or informal or formal, neutral, emotional, academic tone. And these are just examples. There's more types of tones. These are the most common ones that we see. Again, if you have any questions, it's best to reach out to your instructor. However, you can also reach out to the Center for Academic Success. And under that student support tab we saw before, you do see options where you could email us or call us and leave a voicemail. You could also email the Writing Center, which we've discussed before in these videos, which is writing@post.edu. And then the 24/7 support option, which is available through Blackboard called tutor.com. And the instructions are right here on how to access them. Please keep in mind that if you're using tutor.com, you're going to need to provide them with information about what you need help with because they don't have access to the courses. So they are a third party that assists students, but you can't just say, I need help with the Unit 7 assignment and FYE 140. You have to tell them what it's about and what exactly it is you need help with to get the best assistance possible. All right, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you for our final video in week 8.